Hey ladies and gentlemen, Richard Core Kenobi here, and I'm back again for another Rant video. Now, here's the thing. I was originally supposed to do another Rant video on a specific fan film that is the worst fan film of all time, but I couldn't do that because this needed more attention. And it's been stupidly getting more controversial, and it's being blown out of proportion way too far. And this all started Friday at Comic-Con. And this is about how stupid the sex scene between Bruce and Barbara doesn't deserve all of the hate. Yes, that is what I'm here to talk about. So if you haven't seen The Killing Joke, I highly suggest you click out, you go watch it, because this is spoilers. And also, too, for all of you naysayers who just click on this video and hit that dislike button and say what the hell ever you want to say in the comments, I'm not here to just flail my arms and act like a child, yell off the top of my lungs. I'm not going to do that. I'm very mature and I'm very professional. I'm here to be the voice of reason, and I'm here to just shed light and hopefully guide everyone into seeing what everyone like me sees. So, yes. For all you Nightwing and Batgirl fans, or just people who hate the Batman Beyond universe, or people who don't even like Bruce and Barbara being together, don't come crying to me. Alright, so let's get started. So on Friday, there was a leaked clip of Batman and Batgirl having sex. It was like 13 seconds, and then they address it in the next scene. And you know what? When I heard that this blew up the internet on San Diego Comic-Con, that fans were outraged. They were hitting the dislike button. You know, all of them were displeased. They were like, the most unorthodox. They were like, no, they shouldn't be together. No, they should not have sex. Bruce Timm has raped our childhood. He doesn't get Batman. This movie is disrespecting Batgirl. It ruins her character. This is the worst movie of all. This is worse than Batman v Superman, blah, 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 blah. That usual fan bullshit. So, pretty much, when I heard about this, I was like, why is this a big deal? Why is a 13-second sex scene that we don't even see, why is this a big deal? Well, I'll tell you why, but before I tell you, I want to take a moment to address that a lot of people need to understand this. So let me take you back to the 80s when The Killing Joke came out. This is going to be a long video. So when The Killing Joke came out, a lot of people loved it, but it was very controversial. Like this animated film is controversial, but most people love it. But there were some people, like right here, who don't like it. For different reasons, and this film is not meant for everybody. Not everybody is going to love this. But there are some people, like 80% of the people who are hardcore fans like me, they're gonna love this film. But back then, when this book came out, Batgirl fans hated it. Barbara Gordon fans hated it. Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon shippers hated it. The point is, that is why this book is controversial, because of the fact that not only was Barbara shot, but here's the more shocking thing, and for those of you saying you're making this up, you haven't read the book, I have the book right here, and I have read it, so you need to go back and read it. But anyway, Barbara Gordon was not a character in The Killing Joke graphic novel. I repeat, she was not a character. In fact, me and my friend Roden Jogenshi, I'm going to be bringing up some points we talked about last night. He pretty much said she was a plot device. That's exactly what she was. She was a plot device. She was just there to get shot. She was just a reason for Bruce to go after the Joker because it's now personal, and she was just someone for the Joker to use to drive Jim Gordon mad. That's it. You didn't get to spend time with her. You didn't get to do anything. And even if you were familiar with Batgirl, you don't get to spend time with this Batgirl. You don't get to see her talk to Batman. You don't get to just see her do anything but just get shot. And you're probably saying, well, she had a conversation with her dad. That doesn't count. She added nothing to the story. She was completely useless. And she was just there to get shot. And I was a little annoyed by that but it did not ruin my enjoyment of the graphic novel. I still love the graphic novel. It beautifully is a masterpiece in every sense of the definition, but it's a masterpiece in its own right. You know, it's not a book for everybody, but it's still a damn good book that revolutionized Batman and the Joker's relationship, gave us a definitive look into Joker's origin, and made us feel sympathetic for the Joker. That's it. Now flash forward to now, where Bruce Timm said that he and his team, if they were going to do this film, they wanted to give Barbara Gordon an emotional connection. We needed to feel emotionally connected with her. We needed to spend time with her. We needed to like her more, and we do. That's exactly what we do. But in the 27-minute prologue, there is a scene where she has sex with Batman, and a lot of people were not happy with this. Now I'm going to address this. First of all, okay, for those saying this completely ruins the character, that is bullshit. Because, first of all, this prologue is meant to be a realistic take on how complicated a romance is. Because there are certain relationships that are complicated and unconditional. And that's exactly what this is. Even my good friend Ronan Joganshi posted that on his Twitter. It's a beautiful, dramatic look into it. And you know what? The fact that people are saying that, oh, this doesn't make any sense. Why would she do this? This ruins my enjoyment. It makes no sense. Because this is Batgirl taking to her limits. We get to see her for the first time go into the edge of the abyss. We get to see, how someone like her, who has only been fighting crime for 3 years, this is still an inexperienced Batgirl. This isn't an intelligent Batgirl like she is now, where she's Oracle and she knows these situations. She's still brash, arrogant, and it's still a game and a thrill to her. Even Bruce tells her that. He constantly tells her, look, you're not ready. You haven't been taken to the edge. And here's the funny thing about that. For people who are saying Batman started it or Batman's creepy, let me first point out, okay, if you just saw the clip and you haven't seen the movie, you cannot make that a stupid accusation like that because it's not true. It was Barbara who pushed it, not because of the reasons you were thinking. It's because of how she's handling this new villain named Paris France, and how he's pretty much her version of the Joker. He is her own Joker. He's doing to her what the Joker does to Bruce. But unlike Bruce and the Joker, Paris pushes her obsession with Batman into a complicated, unconventional love. Because in the animated series, Barbara Gordon was in love with Bruce, and she even fantasized about kissing Bruce. And in the Batman Beyond universe, it was confirmed that they did get together at some point. And by the way, this made Nightwing and Batgirl fans cringe, and so far to this day, Batgirl and Nightwing fans hate, I repeat, hate the Batman Beyond universe. That is not a joke. Not kidding. And it's stupid for beyond these reasons. But either way, I am a Batgirl and Nightwing shipper myself, but I did not feel offended by this. If I felt offended by this, it would have been if Batman would have acted all lovey-dovey, out of character. If Batman would have acted like Dick Grayson, romantically charming, witty, just trying to pretty much have that kind of lovey-dovey relationship with Batgirl, then I would have seen your problem, and I would have said, okay, no, that's too far. But they didn't do that. They took it back, and they humanized the situation. Because let me ask you all something. Put yourself, for those of you hating on this, put yourself in her position. What would you do? Even my buddy Next Gen Striker, he pointed this out in his review. What would you do if you're partners with the male, and every time you go out and fight crime, it's life or death, and you do eventually start to form an obsession, unconditional romance with that said partner? At some point, it's going to explode. Your instincts are going to kick in, and you're going to pretty much give into it. It's perfectly natural and it's perfectly human. We've never seen that done or talked about or even delve into this detail, unlike The Killing Joke. No other animated film has ever done this, and they knew. Bruce Timm and his team knew this was going to be controversial, but they did it anyway because they knew it was the right thing to do, and they knew this is what would make people get emotionally invested with her, because you want to see Batgirl succeed. You want to be there for her. You want to give her a hug. You basically want to be there to guide her. And Bruce Wayne does not see her as a romantic partner. He sees her as just his partner. And yes, he does have sex with her, but it's just because he's just going along with it. Barbara is the one who's mostly enjoying it. And you don't get to see this explored as much as we want it to be, but it is very good that they chose to do that, and I loved it. I really did loved it. I don't care what people say. And for those of you, mainly people like Grace from Trailer Beyond, yeah, not even going to get started on her. But the fact that she says that this is sexism, or she pretty much was twisting it, saying this ruins The Killing Joke, this ruins our childhood, this and that's just many, many other people's opinions. Look, okay? This has nothing to do with any of that. This is an emotionally real story. People go through this sort of thing all the time, and they can sympathize and connect with what Barbara's feeling. And honestly, it was probably for the better that they chose to do this. And, you know, people have made it their mission. Batgirl and Nightwing fans are making it their mission. They made it their whole mission throughout the whole weekend to make sure that the word was heard that this was terrible and this ruins the movie. And for the most part, it did not work. But there were certain people I follow on Twitter that were affected by this, and it ruined their enjoyment of it. And that pisses me off, because I don't care how pissed off or hurt you fans are, you do not go around doing that, because then you so-called fans, that doesn't give you the right to do any of that. And you can hit that dislike button and you can call me names, this and that, I don't care. I am a fan. I'm a passionate fan. Me, Ronan, Next Gen Striker, my buddy Duo Dreamer, all of us are fans. We're passionate fans, and we don't let this crap affect us. We can understand where the writing is going. We can understand for the first time we're getting humans, not vigilantes, because vigilantes are regarded as not being human. That's what Batman is most regarded about. People see him as a monster. People see the entire Bat family as just vigilantes. We don't get to see, we've seen that they're not vigilantes, but the outside audience has never gotten an animation experience to where we legitimately get to see them being portrayed as humans and having real human problems. And even Barbara herself states in the next scene, Barbara, what have you done? She's pretty much realizing how too far she went, and she's taking the responsibilities, and she's realizing her mistakes, and she's trying to she's confused. She doesn't know what to do. She even says, it was just sex, for God's sakes. It didn't mean anything. No, they didn't care. So if the character herself realizes that it was not a big deal, even though she loved it and she was pushed to it, and this pushes her further into the edge, if she doesn't care, then why should we care? Why do Nightwing and Batgirl fans care? Because Nightwing and Batgirl fans are under the impression that Batman should not be with Batgirl. He never should. Even though this story was not in the canon originally. This takes place in a multiverse. This is pretty much just a one-off story, and yes, this was confirmed by Moore himself. He basically stated before it became a part of the DC canon, it was just meant to be an Elseworld story. That's it, nothing more. But because the origins were so good for the Joker, it's now a part of the canon. The Killing Joke Joker himself is now in the main DC Rebirth canon. But here's the thing. Before any of that, you have to understand something. If you can't see exactly what they're trying to do, then honestly, I don't know what you're even doing. Because, and it's not creepy, it's not just, Bruce Wayne is not a pervert. This story takes place when Bruce Wayne is at the end of his 20s and probably in his early 30s, and Batgirl is in her middle 20s. So it isn't creepy, okay? And by this timeline, Bruce Wayne and Joker had been fighting for over 40 years. Yeah, I know, that's crazy. So, yes. Now, I can understand you're angry. But here's the thing we're going to talk about. Now that we're done with that, let's talk about why, no matter how hard fans try, no matter how hard naysayers, hardcore fans of Batgirl and Nightwing, or people who just don't want to see Bruce and Batgirl get together, even though it's not a typical relationship. Bruce Timm himself has stated that relationships are complicated. Sometimes, like me, you're in a good relationship to where you don't argue with your partner, and you understand your partner, you're connected with your partner, and you'll always be strong, stick together. You will be that 1 in a million perfect couple. Or you'll just be the average couple, to where you do fight sometimes, but you still love each other, and somehow you manage to make it work all throughout the many, many years, until you both die together. And then you have the complicated and unconventional couple, where it means nothing. It's just an obsession. It means nothing. The sex doesn't mean anything. The romantic parts, they don't mean anything. That is what Barbara and Batman fit into. That is what category they fit into. While Dick and Babs, they fit into the average couple, but they lean more towards the perfect couple because they have good romantic chemistry. They're good together. But even so, this is not meant to be something that we're going to have to get used to. No, it's just for the purposes of this story because it gives us a chance to be emotionally connected and sympathize with where she's coming from. Because before Paris came into her life, she and Batman had a good partnership. It was well balanced, and they, even though Batgirl wasn't Batman's equal, she was still his partner, and she was still learning. But then after Paris came in, she was taken to her edge. She experienced what Bruce has always experienced, and she even asked him, how do you resist it? How do you do it? I don't know how you do it. And after what happens with Paris, and after this forces her obsession with Batman to just blow up romantically and unconditionally for them to have sex, and then next she starts beating the hell out of Paris, nearly killing him. She is this close to just falling into the abyss, never coming out, and having the rest of her life be consumed by vengeance and revenge. But she stopped herself. That is character. That is human. So, yes, now that that's over, here's what I have come to understand. The Killing Joke animated film is going to be controversial, but it's not going to be terrible. It's not going to be god-awful. It's not going to be bad. If you naysayers if people go in with that mindset, yeah, they're not going to like it because this isn't a film for everybody. This isn't like Mask of the Phantasm where it's a perfect film. This isn't like Under the Red Hood where it's an unbelievable masterpiece that still to this day is one of the best DC animated movies we've had. Nothing compares to it. The only things that come close is Superman vs. the Elite and The Dark Knight Returns and the Flashpoint Paradox movie. That's it. But this film, it's a masterpiece in its own right. It's not declared a masterpiece, but it has the right to be one. And it will be controversial, but in a few years from now, like it's gonna be a cult classic. And let me give you an example why. Okay, do y'all remember this? Yeah, this. When this came out in theaters, it bombed. It bombed, and X-Men Origins Wolverine beat this in the box office. It was destroyed by critics and fans. It had mixed opinions. This was pretty much similar to Batman v Superman. But when this version came out, the director's cut, it started getting a cult classic. It started getting better. It fixed a lot of the problems. But here's the thing. Alan Moore himself said he hated this film. He hated it. And from then on, he hated the idea of any of his adaptations being done in either live action or animated. Have you ever wondered why you didn't see Alan Moore's name in the Killing Joke credits? Because he didn't want to be credited with it. He hates the idea. I mean, he has respect to the right people who do it, but he doesn't, after seeing this, he doesn't want to see it. And that's understandable. That is fine. You don't get mad at him for it, but either way, you know, this was beat for beat 100% like the comic. You don't even have to read the comic. You just have to watch this. This had no originality. It had no soul. If this can't stand on its own, and as much as I love this film, I have to admit, it's not a film that can stand on its own because of the fact that it's just a carbon copy of the comic. But it still had it still had some original things. It still took risk. I'll give you that. But the reason why it was heavily just slammed is because it was just the comic. That's it. This film, on the other hand, is the opposite of that. It takes risk, it does something creative, and it's 80% beat for beat like the comic. The prologue is completely original, and even if you took out the Killing Joke, this film would be able to stand on its own, and this would just be a short story that would stand on its own perfectly. And it's just a love letter to the animated series, to our childhood. That's all it is, and it's nothing more than that. And also, too, it's still going to be a cult classic. Years from now, we're all going to look back, and it will eventually warm up. I mean, Batgirl fans were so pissed at Alan Moore, and they accused him of just hating Batgirl. When he said, I didn't hate Batgirl. I just didn't see any use for her. I don't think that's what he said, but that's probably what he would have said. So yeah, for those of you naysayers, just get over it. It's not a big deal. And I feel bad for people who had to cancel their tickets to see this in theaters, because let me tell you, this was a one-time thing. How often do we get to see a Batman animated film in theaters? Not often. This was like a rare occurrence, and chances are we don't know if this will happen again, because Mask of the Phantasm bombed because it wasn't Disney. That's the whole reason. That's why Warner Brothers doesn't care about it. If they did care about it, they would have given us a remastered Blu-ray version celebrating the 20th anniversary of it, but we haven't gotten that yet. I don't know when. But this was special. This meant a lot to us. I loved it. I don't care what people say. You can say whatever the hell you want to say, because it's still good. It pays respects to the source material. It does it beautifully, but it still stands on its own to where years from now, even if you took all that out, you would still have a wonderful, well-told story about what would it be like if vigilantes in the Bat family experienced real-life human problems. What would that be like? You gotta ask yourself, for those of you who hate this film, what would you do if you were in Batgirl's position? What? What would you do, and how would you do it? And that's the thing, at the end of the day. People can hate this movie, people can say it's god-awful, people can say whatever they want about it, but most people like me, the good will always overlook the bad. This film is not an abomination by any means. It's a great film. And I'm telling you, why do you think it's going to be remembered? Because here's the thing. as much as you people don't want to admit it, you actually did feel a connection for Batgirl, even though you just said it pretty much disrespects your character and Bruce Timm raped your childhood when none of that could be true. None of it. You cared. You cared about Batgirl. And when she did get shot, everyone, including me, my friend Ronan, Next Gen, and you will too, you're going to feel for her. You're just going to feel that bullet. You're going to just want to just grab her and hug her. You're just going to want to care for her because you're emotionally invested and connected to her. That was the whole point. And guess what? The controversy will make this film a great film, and it'll make it stand out from any other DC animated film because this did something that no other animated film could ever do. It gave us the first ever rated R, dark, gritty Batman story. Yeah, think about that. Batman v Superman, that doesn't count. That is not an R-rated Batman film. This is the true, definitive Batman R-rated film. And guess what? No matter how many bad things people say, it'll still stand out, and people will be curious enough to see it, and most people will say, that was pretty good. It wasn't as bad as everyone's saying. I don't know why people say it was bad. Or there will be some people who will be disappointed and not like the prologue, but they'll still love the Killing Joke parts. So there's going to be like a small percentage of people that'll just say it's bad and it's horrible. That small amount won't affect the big amount. Not at all. So yes, those are my opinions. And everyone just calm the hell down. This isn't a big deal. Alright? I can understand. If you want to be mad for the sake of being mad, okay. If you want to not like this, okay. If you want to just strangle this, okay, fine. Whatever. It's your opinion. But guess what? People like me, we love this film because it did something very similar to what The Dark Knight and the '89 film did. And if you don't know what that is, just go look at the Nostalgia Critics editorial on Batman Mask of the Phantasm. Then you'll understand what I'm talking about. And this perfectly goes with those three films. So yeah, this did what Mask of the Phantasm couldn't do. But that doesn't mean this is better, because by my definition, Batman Mask of the Phantasm is my #1 favorite animated Batman film, and it always will be, because it gave me a definitive Batman. But this is #3, and it's very good. So yes, that's my rant, and you can take this however you want. Naysayers, if you're still fans of Batman, of Batgirl and Nightwing, okay, I am too, but I wasn't offended by this. I didn't feel like I had my childhood raped. Because Bruce Timm understands Batman more than we give him credit for. He gave us our childhood, and without him, we wouldn't have the animation films. The animated films are the only thing that is keeping up with Marvel. So, yeah, take that for what it is. So, yes, thank you all for watching this rant. And please, go watch The Killing Joke. Judge it on your own. Don't let naysayers and Batgirl and Nightwing's fan, don't let anyone tell you differently. Judge it on your own. Take it for what it's worth. And decide if you love it or if you hate it. That's the power of opinion, people. Thank you all. And until then, this is Richard Core Kenobi saying, may the Force be with you.
Everyone likes me and thinks I'm great in my safe space.
My safe space.
People don't judge me and haters don't hate in my safe space.
Your safe space.
Bully-proof windows, troll-safe doors, nothing but kindness in here.
You might call me a pussy, but I won't hear you in my safe space. My safe space.